Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm going to allow a few seconds here so that we can allow everybody to get into the webinar, and then we will get started. I know we still have several people that are logging in right now. All right, well, let's get started. First, thank you everyone who has taken the time to join us today. My name is Stacy Bouchaw with NAVIS, and I know that many of you, as well as all of us here at NAVIS, are kind of tackling things one day at a time right now, putting our health and our families first and foremost, and then giving whatever energy we have to our businesses and our industry that is facing unheard of headwinds and something I don't think any of us would have ever predicted. Today, I am fortunate to be joined by two longtime industry experts and two people who I consider great friends. I've had the pleasure of working with them now for many, many years. I will start by making some introductions. First, Carol. As founder and CEO, Carol brings over 30 years of experience to her leadership at Dragonfly Strategists. Her previous executive roles include directing revenue strategy, distribution, sales and marketing, guest loyalty and relations, and IT at Journal Hotels, Heritage Hotels and Resorts, TravelClick, Kimpton Hotel and Restaurant Group, Aramark Parks and Destinations, and Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group. And in her various roles, Carol was responsible for top-line revenue departments, including revenue management, distribution, sales, marketing, and contact center services, as well as guest loyalty and guest relations. She is super active in our industry. She is a past president of HEDNA, the Hotel Electronic Distribution Network Association. She's also served on the 2016 and 2017 America's Board of HSMAI and was selected as one of Travel Agent Magazine's top women in travel. Carol, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here and look forward to this.
Great. Chris Jackson. Chris is the principal and chief evangelist of GCommerce, a hospitality-focused digital marketing agency. Chris brings more than 25 years of digital marketing and hotel operations experience, with the last 17 years spent with GCommerce. Chris is a recognized digital marketing strategist and industry thought leader. He also is known as one of the industry's recognized disruptors via a monthly hotel magazine byline and as a judge of the annual Hotel Social Awards at HSMAI Adrian Awards, just to name a few. He brings a unique and sometimes controversial perspective to the conversations through challenging traditional thinking, and really understands the challenges that many hotel owners and operators face from his extensive background in hotel operations as a general manager of numerous upscale hotels and resorts prior to joining GCommerce. And his combined experience of operations and digital marketing really allows him to effectively apply a marketing strategy to overcome pressing industry and property level challenges. And super excited to have you with us here today, Chris.
Thank you, Stacy, and thank you everyone for joining us. And just maybe to impart a little bit of insight before we get into some of the details, just a top line kind of topic here is, what's the right marketing strategy during a crisis like this? When facing a pandemic crisis that is having a negative impact on the travel industry, hotels need to focus on driving awareness and taking as much of the market share as they can get. Hotels should not, cut rates or stop spending in hopes of waiting it out. And this was really proven in a study from Cornell University titled Winners and Losers. And just in brief, one of the factors that separated winning hotels from losers in the last recession was the hotel's management of marketing expenses. By matching a group of 100 winners to 106 losers based on high or low financial performance during the recent recession, the study highlights the effects of marketing expenses as one primary driver of revenue and profit. The study compares the two groups' revenue and profitability metrics, determined the two groups' financial performance as the recession wore on. The results of the study showed significant differences between the winners and losers when measured by the top line indicators such as ADR, RevPAR, total RevPAR, and profitability. Winners were also found to spend significantly more on marketing than losers. The relationship between marketing expenditures and performance is significantly positive, with franchise expenses and other sales expenses emerging as the most important determinant of RevPAR, GoPAR, and net operating PAR. In particular, these results highlight the importance of personal sales efforts, including promotions, familiarization trips, trade shows, and training of sales personnel, sales visits, and other outside sales and marketing efforts. These data led to the conclusion that firms that invest in marketing, especially in tough times, can achieve a payoff via various revenue drivers and will realize gains beyond just the short term. So thank you for letting me share that real quickly. And I would encourage you to take a look at Winners and Losers by Cornell University.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That's awesome. I definitely want to read that. And it sounds like there's some really great insights that'll come out of that. And that's definitely one of the things, obviously, we're going to talk about as we get through here. So for those who don't know me, just wanted to make a little formal introduction. I've been with NAVIS now for 10 years. Like many, I grew up in the hospitality industry, started back in 1998. I've had several different roles, from catering and convention services to ultimately leading group sales for a 220 key independent resort here in Bend, Oregon. And I now lead the enterprise sales team for NAVIS. I'm fortunate to work with some of the finest hotel owners, asset manager and management companies, and consult with them on strategies to optimize NOI through all things reservation sales, revenue management, and marketing. And just to share a few examples of some of the clients I work with: Montage Hotels and Resorts, Auberge Hotels and Resorts, Vail Resorts, and Hyatt. So now we're going to jump into the content that we've developed for our time together today. We're really planning on this to be very podcast-like, and what I mean by that is very few slides, and we've really designed our Q&A based on the great feedback and questions that we received from those of you who have registered. We are also going to be taking questions throughout, which you can submit through the Q&A tool here in Zoom, and our goal is to try to get to as many of them as possible, and if we can't, we will absolutely follow up to make sure that we answer any questions that you all have for today. So to start, the first thing I think it's important to acknowledge is the fact that we are in a completely foreign land right now. Anything historical that we have to look back on is an important backdrop, but what we're dealing with right now with COVID-19 is something our industry has never seen before. And I know for me, it was watching Arne Sorensen's video, the CEO of Marriott, last week, when it hit me. It really hit me how much that was the case. I literally sat and bawled my eyes out because everything hit me, just how monumental that this impact was going to be. And I know, Carol, we were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah.
It was
same here. It was a time that it really got to me, and you know, to see him say that in 93 years they've never experienced anything like this, and I think we all kind of knew that, but just to hear the head of Marriott saying that just, you know, kind of struck all of us very strongly, I believe.
Yeah, very strongly. It hit home. I was at ALIS, the American Lodging Investment Summit, in January, and I'm a geek. I'm always so excited to hear of any economic forecasts that are shared. And I always know that there's going to be that big asterisk, right? That is, unless we have a black swan event. And I think this is, unfortunately, a black swan event of all black swan events, what we're dealing with right now. But what we do know is that our economy operates in cycles, and we knew that this cycle, the cycle, you know, that just, you know, is ending, was 116 out of 120 months of RevPAR growth. We knew that it eventually would come to an end. We knew that things were going to slow down, but nobody expected that it would be with this and what we're facing today. What we do know, though, is that with any economic crisis, the typical impulse, the typical reaction is two things. One, it's huge impacts to staffing, and it's large impacts to pricing with deep discounting. And history has shown us through the last two major impacts that our industry has faced, 9/11 and then the Lehman Brothers crisis of 2008 that led us to our last recession, that ADR is hit hard, and that it leads to, unfortunately, what can be a very long recovery time. And in fact, the rebound time for ADR, these graphs here that Smith Travel Research has put out, shows that it takes nearly double the time of the decline to rebound from ADR. And it's reflected here in this graph, here specifically speaking to post 9/11. And then this one, which is speaking to the post-Lehman Brothers bankruptcy of 2008. And Carol and Chris, I know both of you, like I, were in the industry during both of these and saw this firsthand. And I know, Chris, you just talked about some of the lessons that were learned during those times. Carol, what are your thoughts when you see these graphs?
Well, it definitely is different this time. I think that the catastrophic nature of what has happened is, we've been told, larger than both of these combined. And so, I think in looking at this, that you can see that there was this huge ADR drop. And right now, my encouragement to people is, there's no market share to steal by dropping your ADR. I mean, there's little demand out there. So we need to be very strategic about what we do to hopefully curb the tank that could happen, because if trends follow what's happened in the past, then that means it's going to take us years to recover from this, right? Because the last one was 37 months. So, I think that we need to realize that dropping your rate never drives demand anyhow. You can steal share sometimes, but there is no share to steal, so there's no reason to do it. And I just encourage people to hold strong on that. There are buckets of areas where you can do things for groups of people, where you can add government rates because FEMA might be traveling or that type of thing. But you don't just tank your bar rate, because it simply doesn't make sense to do that in this environment. Otherwise, we're all going to be in trouble.
Yeah, agreed. Chris, anything you would add to that?
Yeah, I think we would all agree that it's a fight right now between, and maybe not as big of a fight as it's going to be here as this rebounds, of fighting between rate and occupancy. And I think we would all agree that maybe not higher occupancy at the expense of rate makes the most financial bottom line sense. You want to create value, of course, in your rates through additional benefits, value add benefits in there. But rate flows about 100%, as opposed to occupancy does not flow fully to the bottom line. So it's finding that right balance between rate and occupancy.
Yeah, great points. And we're gonna talk a little bit more about some of these additional revenue management strategies as we get into more questions here. So thank you both for that. So what can you do now to prepare for this eventual upturn? Whether, I think that's the big unknown, right? Is it 3 months from now, or, I know we would all love it to be a month from now, but 3 months from now or 6 months from now. So today what we're going to do is focus on 3 key areas. We're going to talk some more about marketing, how to market, what to market. We're going to talk about revenue management, and that includes, channels, channel management, and rate strategies. And then we're going to talk about people. How do we leverage people? How do we leverage technology in times like this? So let's get started. And again, we've had some great questions that have been posed by attendees today. And so we're going to start with one of those. And what we know, a lot of people right now are really struggling with balancing being tone deaf. What is the right message? Making sure that we're messaging that we aren't messaging inappropriately, that we're not messaging too soon. But we know, right, in our hearts, we know that in order to create demand, we have to get in front of consumers. And in addition, so many hotels are running on very thin teams right now. We know this from a lot of the furloughs that we're seeing amongst many of our friends. So we know that, many hotels are also struggling with, bandwidth and going to have to lean on partners like Chris, you and Carol. So Chris, I'll let you start here. The question we have is, when is it okay to start remarketing to your guests and how? And with how, we've had a lot of questions on, what is the mediums that are appropriate right now? So what are some of the strategies that you're seeing or encouraging your clients to be deploying now or into the near future?
So I think you hit on one thing that's really important, and it's really kind of the driving factor right now when it comes to whether you should or shouldn't be marketing. And if you are marketing right now, that tone deaf comment that you made, Stacy, is really important. The way we have been remarketing in the past does not apply right now. There has to be a level of sensitivity in there. However, consumers are still researching and planning future travel, obviously at a much more diminished level than we have seen, previous to the last 2, 3, 4 weeks. Website sessions have decreased pretty dramatically with this diminished demand, but there still are transactions occurring, with the majority of the stay dates being 60 plus days out. So we're recommending to our hotel clients that remarketing campaigns on display in social and potentially video advertising on YouTube, since there's a lot of people at home and streaming some YouTube videos at this time. It's a great place to capture them, that they should still be pursued. Obviously, you need to segment the audience by research, stay date, and offer package type, and then curate the message to promote more of a late summer, fall kind of travel, making sure that your creative depicts that summer season, because we're, obviously this occurred during this kind of shift between winter, spring, and what's will soon be upon us, summer. Your media budgets will, they're going to come down simply due to the lower website sessions that you're going to experience, leading really to a reduced audience size. So, one of the things that we've been talking about in the remarketing messaging and offers, if you're offering, promote a risk-free book now, cancel later type messaging in the remarketing offer. As I mentioned before, promoting value adds and not just discounted rates, such as including F&B, spa, golf credits, free breakfast, free upgrades, things of that nature that creates a little bit more value while maintaining your rate.
Yeah, Stacy, I would say from my perspective, I saw something yesterday actually from Puerto Rico that I think had a great tone to it. And it was, we know you can't leave now, so please virtually come to Puerto Rico and dream about when you can. And then they have a bunch of video out there. And I think that if we can get people dreaming about being out of our prisons at home, is how I feel in New York City, quite frankly, that if we can start dreaming about where we want to go and thinking about where we would rather be right now and who we would rather be with. No, I love my family. I'm kidding. But, it does get to be a little much in a small New York apartment. So, I think that if we can encourage people to start having that vision of where they would like to be, I am confident travel is going to come back in a big way. And I think leisure travel is going to come back in an enormous way, probably before business travel. So, I think that dreaming about vacation and anything we can do as hotel companies to encourage people online to be doing that. We've got a lot of spare time on our hands where we're not going out to eat. We're, not at the museum. We're not, running through the park, and well, some people are, but you know what I mean. So I think that people are online more and have an opportunity even to sit with their family and say, hey, let's get our mind off of this and let's dream about our next vacation.
Yeah, all great points. We talk a lot, right, about the guest buying journey, and dream as a huge piece of that journey. And Chris, to your point, social I can't even imagine what the uptick right now in social is, obviously web
Mm-hmm.
as well, but social specifically, it's in our face right now. And unfortunately, there's a lot of negative stuff happening as well. So anything that is positive, I think, is huge. The other thing I've been hearing a lot about is leveraging PR during times like this. Have either of you
Mm-hmm.
seen
Yes.
anybody that's doing a really good job of leveraging PR around what they are doing through, whether their, relationship with FEMA, or, having people that are still staying in their hotels, and what they're doing around the entire crisis? Have you guys seen anything from that side of things?
Well, I think Four Seasons opening up for free in New York City to healthcare workers is amazing. I'm glad, that they have deep enough pockets to be able to do that. And, I think anything that we can do, I know Arlo Hotels, for example, is actually taking meals to people in need, and to healthcare workers. And so, I think that there are things that we can do to be good community citizens. And they're not even necessarily to get PR as such, but right now we're all in this together in the entire world. So I think doing things that help people is important right now, whether you get PR or not. And, I also think that there are a lot of companies out there that are just, putting out videos and information and trying to be calming to the industry and the world. And Preferred Hotels had a beautiful message the other day from their CEO. So, I think that that type of message is one that's gonna resonate.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And with marketing or remarketing and marketing in general, a lot of the effort is built around maintaining top of mind awareness. And you don't always have to be selling and trying to encourage someone to come back and book now. Sharing stories and other things, some of the PR that was mentioned earlier, that's also effective ways of keeping top of mind awareness while still being sensitive out there and showing the qualities of your brand.
Well, salespeople just picking up the phone and calling and saying, "How are you?"
Right.
Or those of us that are left at the hotels, because unfortunately I know a lot of salespeople have been furloughed, but even if you've been furloughed and you have nothing to do, some of your clients are friends. Like intentionally, we're trying to pick up the phone and check in on people. And I just think that, again, our industry is about welcoming people home. It's about, being hospitable. It's about caring. And so we need to show who we are as an industry right now. And I think that'll speak volumes as compared, with some of what some of the airlines have done. I think, we need to be about sending an opposite message to that, because we are hoteliers and we are, what was the word that was at a recent conference? I heard hospitalitarians. Yeah.
I have not heard that one. That's interesting. What does that mean?
I forget which conference.
Yeah, no.
Well, hospitalitarians. I forget which meeting I was at, but I thought it was great, to just talk about that is who we are. We are welcoming to people. We're a second home to people. We are the people who hug at conferences. We're not good at social distancing, even though we all need to be good at it right now. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely know how to create new words and new acronyms. We don't have
that's for sure
in our industry. So just a mention to the audience again, if you have any specific questions, please do submit those questions, and we will make a point to get to those. And so now we're going to shift a little bit. I think marketing is probably still going to come up quite a bit in our conversation, but let's go ahead and move on to the next question that we were given. And this is the age-old question. We get this all the time, good times and bad. It's often said that OTAs are necessary to round out a fully robust distribution strategy, whatever that looks like for each individual hotel in their market. But something that I've been hearing is that, right now actually might be a time to be reassessing who your customer is, reassessing which channels you should be partnering with, and what is the pent-up demand that we all hope is going to be, what's going to be that lowest hanging fruit. So Carol, as it relates to OTAs and, how and when you should leverage OTAs in restabilitation for a hotel, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thought for many, many years has been that OTAs are a marketing partner and an advertising partner. And, I think that the data that they can bring to the table, that their market managers can give us insight to, can tell us, oh, well, this country is starting to book into New York City, for example, so you should start promoting there, even though you may not want to do it anywhere else right now, right? So if you are, in the markets that you're in, I encourage everyone, partner with the market manager. The reality is that the majority of hotel companies do not have the marketing and advertising budgets that the large OTAs have. And so we need to look at them as they're going to start the process of regenerating travel around the world. They're going to be a big voice in that, and we need to be a part of it. And, from a practical standpoint, I would encourage you, leave your hotels open on the channels. I've seen some hotels that said, oh, well, now maybe we should close down the OTAs because we don't want to share a percentage of revenue with them. I think that's completely the wrong thing to do. There's still the billboard effect of if someone looks for you on Expedia or Booking and you're not there, they think you're not available and they may not even come and look at your website, right? So I think that working closely with your market manager is more important now than ever. And, being able to leverage their data is extremely important, and they're very willing to share it and give it. And, my company works all over the world, but we have a lot of accounts in New York City. So we work very closely with the market managers here, and they are being terrific during this time at supporting us and giving us data and helping us. So, I think that they are a valued partner. Now, should we all have strong direct booking strategies in place? Absolutely. Some hotels don't have a strong strategy for that in place. May it be that the OTAs bookings are going to surge faster than everyone else? Yeah, maybe, because they're going to spend a lot of money to get people traveling again. But that's when your direct booking strategy comes into place as to how you're going to turn that customer into a direct customer. And also making sure, that you are marketing and advertising your hotel. I mean, right now the OTAs may not be buying your keywords for your name, so It's a chance for you to flow to the top. So I think, I think that they are a very valued partner. They're part of your distribution mix, and you need to have a strategy in place and strong communication with your market management team.
Yeah, what
do you think, Chris? Oh, sorry, I was throwing it to Chris. Sorry.
No, you're totally fine. This actually, Chris will be able to answer this because I think.
Oh, cool.
I think he'll be able to relate to this. One of the comments that I remember, this was at the Hunter conference last year. One of the things that was said, and I think it was the president and CEO of Best Western, and it was exactly what you said, Carol, which is you can't compete with the OTAs on spend, and now more than ever, right? Because marketing budgets are going to be assessed, and there's going to be a lot of conversations, I'm sure, with owners and operators around where and what money do we spend. And the comment was, we know we can't compete with them on the marketing spend, so use them for first guest acquisition, but shame on us if we use them for second acquisition. And so that speaks specifically to that direct booking strategy. And Chris, I know obviously our clients and a lot of our mutual clients, we work very closely on OTA retargeting and such, but I'm sure you have some feedback and commentary around book direct strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I kind of address that, I would just reiterate what Carol said about working very closely with your market managers there for the OTAs. They are a wealth of information on your market and your micro market that's just well beyond what your individual hotel is able to capture from data and insight from feeder markets and what's booking and when aspects. So, weekly conversations with your market manager are really important. I think another thing kind of around OTAs. It's a little bit of a battleground for direct versus kind of that third-party OTA booking is metasearch. It is really kind of taken off in the last couple years and especially in the last 6 months. It's a great place to get visibility, just like being on an OTA or any other marketing kind of channel out there. And that's where a lot of the OTAs are able to, pick up some market share directly on your hotel, is by participating in metasearch. So it's an area that you should definitely be in. And when it comes to kind of that direct booking strategy, and Carol kind of started us off a little there, it's the first and foremost thing is you really got to have a book direct strategy. And that book direct strategy may have just changed slightly, or it needs to be a little agile during this time period. You might have a relaxed cancellation or change policy. Make sure that you're promoting that. I mean, one of the first places that we like to encourage our hotel partners is to promote it, right on their homepage. Why book direct? Give them the reasons why they should. And it might be that more flexible cancellation change policy. They might be able to gain some value adds by booking direct, such as F&B credits, upgrades, free internet, free parking, things of that nature. So it's really important to kind of first have a direct booking strategy and make sure that you're regularly evaluating it and kind of adjusting with the current times. And then, another aspect on gaining more direct bookings is you really want to maximize your paid search brand name term campaigns. The OTAs are bidding on you, or at least most likely bidding on your brand name term. Not all consumers are familiar with, sponsored ads and organic ads. I've seen studies that roughly 50% of consumers will click on the first thing that they see that is relevant to the search that they made. So if you're not up there with your brand name term campaign and the OTAs are, there's a chance that you may miss out on that opportunity. And then again, just, having a really smart remarketing strategy, again, promoting those book direct offers and benefits is another great way of, really driving direct bookings over third party.
Great. Chris, we have a question here, and I think this is probably directed more towards you. And the question is and I'm kind of summarizing what the question is, but with, a lot of hotels that are, closing down for the short term and, not taking reservations or bookings during a certain period of time, what are you seeing right now with how people are addressing that on their website and obviously still trying to encourage people to book direct with kind of uncertainty around times?
Yeah, mostly what we're seeing and we're promoting as well is that you should have some sort of message notification on your homepage, whether that be a pop-up or a banner across the top that states what your current situation is that, we're closed, we're still accepting bookings, we're opening, on this date. We're actually implementing with a customer in Chicago right now a countdown clock to when they're going to reopen to create a little bit of anticipation. So the more information you can share to let people know that you're open, when you're going to be open, that you are still taking bookings for what, beginning what period of time, the better.
That's great. Carol,
I've also heard Stacy. Yeah, so one of the things that I would encourage everyone to do is we're shutting down hotels, but there's still future business to be booked. There are still weddings that need to be moved. There are still meetings that need to be rescheduled, rebooked. And right now, what I'm hearing from some of the meeting planners at some of the corporations is that they can't get the hotels to answer the phone. So I think that I understand, that there may be cash flow challenges at certain hotels, but I think there needs to be a way that people can actually get in touch to book
Mm.
groups and meetings and, individual reservations. Like, somebody has to be there to answer the phone. And so, I would encourage all of you to take a look at what's happening in your particular situation. And I understand the need to scale back, but we can't lose sight of the future. Otherwise, like Chris mentioned earlier with the Cornell report, if you don't market, you might lose. If you have no one to answer your phone, I would say you are going to lose in third and fourth quarter potentially too.
Yeah, we've been consulting with a lot of our clients around that. Again, huge impacts to staffing, and do calls go to a voicemail? How do the calls go to the one person who's still on property? Fortunately, many have partners like NAVIS and others in place that can help during this time. Because I do think guest experience, like, the worst thing is going completely dark and be completely unavailable to your consumers, especially your loyal guests. Looks like we do have another question, and this is I've actually been thinking about this question myself, and I'm curious. This will probably be, Chris, for you, but is there a place these days, especially in the recovery process, for more traditional marketing? And the example given was print. Have you been having much conversations around what traditional marketing might play?
We haven't had as much. It's a great question. Obviously we're focused on the digital side, but there's always a place for the traditional marketing as well. I think, you have to back up a little bit and really think about your marketing plan, strategy, and messaging, and then determine how best to reach your audience. And traditional media may play a role in that.
I think it plays a role in the dream phase. When I think of, not many companies obviously still do traditional marketing. I do see it still quite a bit in luxury, but when you get that postcard, it definitely hits the gut on the dream phase, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I think if you have a contiguous when you have a contiguous message, like across all platforms, if you send a postcard and then you can lead them to a YouTube channel to see what's going on and dream about it. And then, you have a promotion there, and on Facebook, it's the same, having that consistent messaging across all channels about, going on vacation. And I would say I wouldn't spend money to produce some big expensive piece right now, because I don't think that's necessary. I think it would be great to get the spark going for people to start considering to travel again, because we as an industry are going to need to address that. There's fear out there. There's going to be fear about, catching this virus along the way. And so we're, just like after 9/11, we as an industry said, please travel, please come, please travel. We're brave, we're strong, like, we can do this. We're going to have some of that messaging. And I think that direct mail could be part of that.
Yeah, and personalization. I know, we've heard of some of our clients sending handwritten postcards to past guests or clients that have a credit, right, for that future stay, versus canceling, just showing appreciation. And I mean, we've been talking about that, right? Don't cancel, reschedule. So how do you maintain that personalized relationship with, especially your loyal customers? So we do have one additional question, and this kind of plays into both sides. When looking at hotel booking engines, I notice many hotels have the next 60 days showing X, right? Kind of a blackout. What are your thoughts with booking engines showing next available as default view versus forcing guests to click forward to find the right dates open? Does this provide a more visible positive message to shoppers or lookers?
I think that would be terrific, actually. I don't know what you think, Chris. It would be nice to do that, but I do think, it somewhat depends on what the customer's looking for, right? But, being visible on that booking engine page as to when your next day of availability is, whether it jumps forward or whether you say we're reopening on April 20th or whatever, right? So I think it's important to have visibility in that.
Yeah, I would agree. If your booking engine has that ability to provide that next available date, that would be the most ideal method of doing so. You want to Some booking engines also can allow you to place kind of a booking message on that kind of first step landing page of your booking engine, where you could promote when your first stay dates are available as well. And you could, there's most hotels have third-party off-domain booking engines. So it really limits our ability and control to be able to do some more detailed kind of remarketing or data capture during that booking process. But if you are one of the lucky ones that has an on-domain booking engine, when someone searches for a date and it's unavailable, if you could have some sort of message pop up that maybe captures their data, give them a reason why you're asking for their email address to stay up to date on next available dates and things of that nature, to be able to market to them in the future when things return a little bit more to normalcy. But most hotels don't have on-domain booking engines.
Great, great answers. It doesn't look like we have any more questions on this particular subject, so we'll move on to our next. One of the things that we've been talking about here a lot at NAVIS is how are booking windows going to be impacted? We pulled some data just looking at 5 major markets or groups of different NAVIS clients just to see what normal, and I say that in quotes, looked like last year as it relates to in the period for bookings. And we looked at specifically a period of time of July to October. We're kind of seeing that as when many are feeling we're going to be rebuilding during that time. Obviously, some markets see a fair amount of short-term bookings, but they definitely rely on that base business. And with this flux around group business, there's just a lot of uncertainty right now. So Carol, I'm curious, what do you think we might see? Are we going to have compression? A lot of stays got pushed out into the future. So how should hotels be planning for these uncertain booking windows?
Well, obviously right now booking windows have extended because we can't book for tomorrow at a lot of hotels. So, it's, there's definitely a change that's there. And this is an unusual special event, I guess, for all of our revenue management systems, right? So, but I think as markets start being released to go to be, I don't know what to call it, quote unquote, clean or ready to accept people to travel again. I think it's going to be a market by market thing that we're going to have to be very aware of when that's going to pick up. And as people start booking again, it's going to be, I think there are going to be some rapid buildups. The challenge is that, groups are already starting to move some of the stuff in early July to later in the year. So, there's going to be this period of time where we don't have group compression. Now, the good news for a lot of leisure hotels is that sometimes we would rather not have groups there in July and August because we can sell to leisure. And so I think there's going to be perhaps, if this comes back strong, and I'm counting on it coming back strong, a lot of opportunity to perform extraordinarily well with our leisure business, which could be, higher rated, spend more on property, all that type of thing. So, I think we have to be really aware of what's going on market by market. And, resorts are going to be in high demand, I believe, because people are going to want to go on vacation. And a lot of them are kind of iffy right now about booking that because they're not sure when to book it or where to book it. I think potentially there's going to be, a retraction of international travel and then a lot of domestic travel, like people may stay domestically for vacation this year. So, I do think that we're going to see, our mix of business change with group and transient, leisure and business, and it's going to be a shortened window for a while. I think everyone has to stay on top of that and has to be very aware of what's going on in your feeder markets and what's going on in your own market with receiving hotel guests.
Yeah,
and when hotels are reopening too, knowing
right.
what are the dates your comp set's reopening, especially if you're staying open, like know when all that is and when you can take advantage of it.
And being able to tap back into historical data of who are your guests
Yep.
traditionally over this period of time, and
Yep.
and who are people, especially capturing information on demand going into the periods and being able to laser target people that are
Yep.
looking to travel. But I agree with you,
Agreed.
market by market, and there's probably an assumption, right, that people that have discretionary spending who do typically travel more resort and certainly luxury, that there may be some optimism there. Time will tell, but that's something I know we've been talking a lot about. So we'll talk a little bit now about just strategies. This again was a direct question that we got from the audience in advance around what strategies can you focus on to drive more direct bookings. We've talked about this already a little bit, but maybe Chris, I'll turn it over to you to see, again, from a marketing perspective, or if there's anything that you'd like to add to some of the comments that you've already shared.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, and this isn't just now during this kind of crisis time period that we're in, is you have to invest in yourself. Oftentimes we see hotels when they come on board with us. One of the first questions we ask is, what's your marketing budget? And oftentimes it is much lower than it should be compared to their comp set in demand in their marketplace. For example, in New York City, if a hotel comes and says that, well, we've got $3,000 towards paid search, our advice is, well, don't go to paid search, because you're not going to have any visibility in the New York City marketplace unless you're around $10,000 a month. So I think it takes investment first and foremost in yourself, and then appropriating that investment in really covering the entire customer journey out there, from that dreaming phase all the way through to the post departure phase, that kind of honeymoon period afterwards, and that bounce back offers and things of that nature. So that's where we're really focused on, and driving to direct bookings. Is it does take an investment, but when that investment is made, and we see it in hotels that are spending $20,000-$30,000 a month on themselves in digital marketing, compared to those that are spending a couple to a few $1,000s a month, the level of production is quite substantial when you make that investment, and you will see your direct booking percentage increase compared to the third party OTAs.
Stacey, I would say too that outbound calling becomes even more important right now. Looking at who stayed with you last year, emailing them, even outbound calling them, keeping track of people who have those credits and being able to call them and see if they're ready to book, being able to use tools like NAVIS to take advantage of the ability to track those phone leads, and following up in that way, in my opinion, is going to be even more important than it has been in the past.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Obviously, two very critical strategies to optimizing direct bookings that we believe and are a huge foundation of a lot of what we consult around, is now more important than ever, especially as we get to the other side. Capturing that data, I've alluded to it a few times, on non-booked guests and callers. If people are calling, making sure that you're capturing information on those individuals. Yesterday, I was on a call with a very large central reservations operation. They took 170 calls yesterday. They only had 2 bookings. But you know what? Those 2 bookings, that's something to celebrate. And, that's right now. We're also seeing that website traffic is down by about half. Chris, what are you seeing? We've been seeing about half website traffic being down. What are you seeing?
Yeah, across our portfolio of a few hundred hotels, on average, we're seeing about 56% decline in sessions.
But they're still on websites, right? So we can hope, we can assume that that's only going to increase. So, whether you're a NAVIS user or not, having a way to capture that information, even if you have to do it manual, is huge. Through voice on the web, having a shopping cart abandonment tool like we have at NAVIS to capture people's information who hit that booking engine, which we were just talking about, and don't transact. You know, being able to get as much information as you can to be able to retarget. And then loved what you said, Carol. You know, outbound, we call that, you know, concierge callback, really being able to, once you capture that information, how do we retarget? This is as simple as going back and looking at people who stayed last year during that period of time and placing that concierge callback. I don't know if anybody noticed on, you know, my last slide, but you can see the difference in the average stay value between inbound and outbound. It is quite a bit higher. Obviously, the reason for that, those are typically, you know, high consideration stays. They're not going to transact on the first. They need to have that back and forth conversation. It'll be interesting to see how that changes. I think voice is going to be even more important coming out of this, but it'll be interesting to see what some of the stats show. But, you know, even if you have to manually use Outlook, you know, if you don't have a partner like NAVIS to help you automate that, be doing that, I think is super, super critical. So definitely great. We're going to move on to our next question, but again, just for the audience, we have some questions coming in. We are going to have some time for Q&A, so please do submit any questions that you might have, and we will make a point to get to those. So I want to talk a little bit about talent. We know that people have been affected quite a bit right now with what's going on, and I know myself just from conversations that I always have over the years with whether it be an owner or a C-level executive with large management companies, those who are extremely successful oftentimes come down to how valuable their talent and what type of talent that they have. I was in a meeting just recently with a very large management company who's, you know, finding a little bit of silver lining in all of this and is using this as time to kind of rebuild what their team might look like. Coming out of this, we're seeing a huge influx in remote workers. I mean, all of us, we're all working remote right now. So telework, I think, is going to be really interesting coming out of this. You know, with sales agents, remote sales agents. I spoke on this at our annual Navigate conference this year, and there's a lot of people still struggling with, you know, do we do remote, even reservation sales agents? What does that look like? I think it's going to be really interesting coming out of this, how much that may be part of our new normal. But as it relates to people and talent, what are you guys seeing? Maybe Carol, we can start with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd like to say, first of all, we're in a human business. And so I think in this time of crisis, we all need to be human first, and we need to encourage all of our colleagues, our teams, you know, take care of your mental health, be with your family. You know, that's what, you know, we're in this business, but we are humans first, and then we work, right? So I think being human is really important. I think I've seen, you know, many comments from people of, you know, how you treat your people during this time will determine whether they will come back. Because it's also an opportunity for people to potentially make a shift in the next 90 days, right? So I think that, you know, we need to be about being good citizens when it comes to that. And you know, I do think that the whole thing about remote is going to be extremely interesting because, you know, there are talented people all over the world who definitely can do these jobs, but in so many minds, and especially in hotel, which is so much face-to-face, you know, there are positions that don't require that. And so I think, you know, starting to think about, well, can some people work off-site? And in some cases, could hotels even convert some of the offices into new rooms or something, for goodness sake, with people working off-site and have more revenue there, or use them for small meeting rooms to sell and that type of thing. So, you know, I think there is going to be some transition in the future, and people are what makes us good. People, the talent that we have is what makes a difference in all of our companies. And so I think we need to realize that.
Yeah, I would second that. And, you know, in our industry, our people are our lifeblood. They make or break us on that front line. And that's true for my agency as well. we've spent a great deal of time investing in our people to get them trained and get them the skills that they need. We need to make sure that we're taking care of them during this time. We're attempting to try to hold on to everybody because we know that it will cost us more in the long run if we're having to replace people and retrain and get them the skills necessary to get back to the level that we need our people to be at. And I'd say, another thing with our people right now is that, while they may have less work to do because we're simply managing lower budgets and not as many marketing campaigns as we did, a few weeks ago, we're taking this time to be strategizing and planning for relaunch for each of our customers. So we're kind of taking advantage of this kind of slower time to make sure that we are set up for success in the future. And I think, another thing I'd add to it is, during this kind of time of crisis, everyone's looking at their kind of fixed and variable costs out there. Labor is typically one of the larger costs in any organization. And, unfortunately, we've seen a lot of layoffs and furloughs during this time. And we know that labor is somewhat of a fixed cost. And I think companies in our industry, hotels in specific, are going to be probably more open to utilizing third-party, remote voice agents that can flex up and flex down with them based upon their business demands. So I do see a lot of efficiencies that are going to be developed and cost-saving measures for this. We're going to, as you mentioned earlier, we live in this, our economy goes in cycles. We will rebound. We will also fall back down in a period of time in the future. And we need to take this time and all the things that we're learning during this downturn to pay it forward to make us stronger and better for the future.
Yeah, it's a unique time. It's, obviously it's been a while. It's been 10 years since I've been on property, but I know, my heart goes because I know those who are still on property, they're gonna be wearing a lot of different hats. I remember times during the last recession, I was cleaning rooms, doing plating up food in the kitchen for banquets. So it's gonna be tough for a while, but like you both have said, I think the importance of people, we all know how critical our teams are, and I just have a lot of optimism coming out of this. What our new world's gonna look like. So we have just a few minutes, and so just to the audience, we did slate a little bit of time for Q&A. If anybody has any kind of burning questions, we've got a lot of questions throughout, but fortunately, they were things we were planning to address in a couple slides forward, so that has been really good. One of the things is obviously at the end of today, if you have any further questions as you continue to kind of noodle on everything that's been shared, obviously any of us are available for further questions. But we did want to end with just a little bit of optimism. So can you see the light? I think all of us can see the light, and there is a lot of hope coming out of what we're seeing in China and South Korea and Italy as it relates to the number of new cases, COVID-19 cases starting to decline. Carol, you're in the thick of New York where you guys have been impacted first.
Epicenter, yeah.
And the worst, that in Seattle, obviously, but what hope can you shed, or what are your thoughts just around the next?
Well, a couple of
so
So a couple of things. One, just here, in the New York City market, our hospitalization number of how quick it's taking to double is reducing, which means that hopefully the social distancing is starting to work here. So that's a good sign. We think our peak is going to be in about 10 to 12 days. and, you know, just hoping that we can get everything we need to take care of people, obviously. And we'll be one of the first markets to come back, and we're big. So, you know, I think that that's going to be good for the economy to see New York City come back. But one thing I wanted to share from a good friend of mine, Anita Chan, who's CEO of Compass Edge. She's based in Asia, and she released an article on Travel Daily Media yesterday talking about revenge travel. So all of us have a new word, hashtag revenge travel.
Revenge travel, I love it.
Revenge travel. So basically what's going on in China right now is revenge retail spending. And so she wrote an article about how she believes that they are a couple of weeks away of revenge travel, of people saying, I am going to travel. I've been cooped up for so long. And so, you know, I'm hoping and praying for revenge travel, and that it's going to go crazy when we get to the other side of this. And, you know, I think that it will. I think we've proven, you know, here domestically, especially that, you know, after 9/11, we're like, we're a strong people. We are going to get on that plane, and we are going to travel because we're resilient. And so hashtag revenge travel is my hope.
We need to make that trending. I love it. Chris, any final thoughts?
Yeah.
I know I'm revenge traveling. I have 2 trips planned that I scheduled, so
Awesome.
count on me. I'm in that bucket.
I am as well. As soon as this dies down from a business perspective a little bit, because it's been you know, about 18-hour days, 7 days a week lately. I'm going to be planning some revenge travel here very soon, because I got to get out. But no, I think it's, you know, you mentioned this a little bit, Stacy. What we're seeing in China right now is very encouraging. The last stat that I saw, and it is a couple of days old, that last week China saw, I believe it was an 8% lift in domestic flight passenger loads, and an 11% lift in hotel occupancy throughout mainland China. So that's encouraging to see. They are, you know, whatever it is, 6, 8, 10 weeks ahead of us. So we've still got a little bit of a fight left, but it is encouraging to see them rebound, and hopefully we will experience the same here in the coming weeks.
Amen. Well, thank you both so much. You both are amazing. You know, I'm a huge fan of both of you and everything that you do for our industry. Thank you on behalf of NAVIS for everybody that joined us today. We have recorded this webinar, and we'll be making it available to everybody who's joined us today, and certainly anybody who was called into that meeting with an owner last minute that you didn't expect. So that will be going out. And again, feel free to reach out to Carol, Chris, or myself with any questions. And we will all be thinking good thoughts for all of us. And take care.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.